What's up, fight fans? It's Mike from BuddhasportMike. I'm just checking in. It's going to be my second video blog, a follow-up of the predictions I made for the M-1 Global Strikeforce card. I'm going to do a recap of last night's event. Overall, it was a fantastic night for fights. Azufa's got to be thrilled with that. I think I read that they made about 538,000, 638,000 at the live gate. I'm sure the ratings for Showtime were real good, so I'm sure Zufa and Showtime are real happy today. With that being said, let's get to the fights. The first fight was Tarek Seferdine against Scott Smith. The fight was absolutely dominated by Seferdine. He showed fantastic hand combinations, kicks, cage work up against the cage. His Muay Thai looked good. His takedown defense looked good. I mean, he just looked awesome last night. And Scott Smith is no slouch, so a lot of credit to Seferdine. He had Smith confused right off the bat. Right off the bat, when he was going from southpaw to orthodox, throwing different kicks, inside leg kicks, head kicks, body kicks to the body. He was locking up with him, pushing him against the cage, exiting with combinations. I mean, just looked awesome. And in my opinion, I think he's done more than enough to get himself into the title fight for the welterweight Strikeforce title. I want to see a rematch with him and Woodley, but I'll get to that after. What's next for Scott Smith? I think that's it for him and Zufa. I do. 3 losses in a row. Even if you go back before that, he has a win over Kung Lee, which was 4 fights ago, but he was losing that fight pretty much the whole time until he pulled the rabbit out of his hat. So he's got the win over Kung Lee, then Kung Lee knocks him out, then Daly knocks him out cold. I mean, that was just brutal knockout of the year fashion. And then last night he's dominated by a virtually unknown, although the kid's an up-and-coming star. But I think that's got to be it for him and Zoof. I think Smith's got to go back to the local circuit, maybe go to Shark fights or Tachi fights, whatever you got to go to and rework his career and see what goes on from there. Second fight of the evening was Paul Daly and Tyron Woodley. I picked Daly in that. I picked Woodley in that fight. I should say, just the way it went. I picked him to win the control battle. I thought he'd get the takedowns, top control, cage. Push Daly up against the cage, and he did exactly that. What surprised me actually was 2 things in this fight. One was Daly's takedown defense, which looked really good. 2 was Woodley starting to look real comfortable in the striking game. People can't remember that. People got to remember Daly isn't a world-class striker and didn't look outclassed on his feet, Woodley. So I was impressed by that, and I was impressed by Daly's takedown defense. So with that being said, I wouldn't discredit or have any shame for Paul Daly losing that fight last night. Some guys are just a bad matchup, and it looks like Daly's wrestling is headed in the right direction. And his jiu-jitsu, too. That the omoplata that he almost pulled off was sick, really sick. So with that being said, I'm looking forward to Woodley versus Seferdine rematch for the vacant title. I don't want to see Misaki fight Woodley. I don't want to see that. That would be an absolute domination. The Japanese fighters just don't do well against American fighters in a cage. With the wrestling, the wrestling dominates and that's just what's going to happen. It'll be a waste for 8 weeks or whatever, 10 weeks training camp just to see Woodley dominate Misaki. Let's see the rematch between Seferdine and Woodley. That's what I want to see, and I hope the fans want to see it as well. The third fight of the night was Kennedy and Lawler. A real entertaining fight. The first round started out great transitions, great scrambles. The story of this fight was really Timmy Kennedy's wrestling and his toughness. His takedowns looked great in that fight. He pushed the pace. He shot a beautiful double in the first round. stayed on top of him. Lawler looked good the first 2 rounds. I think looked okay. I shouldn't say looked good, but he pretty much just got outclassed by a better wrestler and a more well-rounded fighter. Kennedy's face was battered. That was done. Don't let that fool you. That was done with maybe 3 or 4 shots. One big uppercut that Lawler landed right before he was taken down in the second round that busted Timmy's nose up. But for the most part, that was Kennedy from beginning to end. I had it scored 30-27 for Tim Kennedy. I would like to see Kennedy in a rematch with Jacare. I think he deserves it. I don't think that anyone deserves it more after Jacare beats Rockhold. So that's what's going to happen. That's my opinion. Let's see the rematch between Kennedy and Jacare. What's next for Lawler? I would put Lawler in there with Keith Jardine. Let Lawler welcome Keith Jardine at the middleweight division. That would be a good fight. That or Benji Raddick, I think would be a good matchup. Lawler definitely needs a win in his next fight. So one or the other. So Kennedy for as the #1 contender. Lawler against Jardine or Benji Raddick. The co-main event of the evening was the women's title fight. Great job by Miesha Tate. Her wrestling was really the story there. I had her winning 2 of the first 3 rounds and then getting the submission in the 4th. Beautiful, beautiful choke at the end. A lot of people didn't see that one coming because Conan was the submission specialist. 14 of her 19 wins by submission. So great job by Miesha. Congratulations. Her and Sarah Kaufman next, and that should be a fantastic fight for the fans. Looking forward to it. And Conan against anybody you put her in there with would be great. But there's some tough women Strikeforce could put her in there with. So that was one of the first ones I lost. That was the first one I lost. I won the first 3 in my predictions. I lost that one, and I wanted Tate to win the fight, but I just thought Conan was going to be too much. But Miesha did a good job defending a couple of those submission attempts. The guillotine in the first round, and I think in the second round it was she almost had her in the rear naked choke, and Miesha did a good job both times to stay out of it and get the submission win herself in the 4th round. So great job there. And then in the main event, I had Fedor all the way. I'm a diehard Fedor fan. Anybody who considers themselves an MMA fan has to be sad today, despite what Dana White and everybody in the UFC says about Fedor. He is the greatest mixed martial artist of all time. 1 or 2, if you want to put Anderson Silva ahead of him, that's fine. But when Dana talks bad about Fedor, you got to realize he's promoting his brand, and he can't really mean the stuff he says about Fedor. But because Fedor never was his fighter, that's why he feels that way. The first 2 fights, the last 2 fights that Fedor lost, I made excuses for him. I said he got caught in Werdum's guard. That was the first thing I said. He got a little overconfident. He got caught in Werdum's guard, in the triangle or in the arm bar. No big deal. It happens to everybody. He's only human. Then the Silva fight come along, and I said, okay, well, this guy's just a behemoth of a man. He's cuts to 265 pounds. Fedor's a small heavyweight. Maybe he's getting a little older. That might just be the size. It was the size. It wasn't Fedor's fighting ability. It was the size that lost him that fight. So now the Henderson fight's coming up. Oh, this is Fedor's back. Definitely he's coming back. He's going to get a big win here. Go back on a tear. Oh, this and that. And then last night just... he gets TKO'd, and for the fans out there that say that was an early stoppage, it wasn't an early stoppage. Fedor did spin back to his back, but Henderson was still in side control, which only means Fedor would have got hammered. There's no reason for the guy to get hammered into unconsciousness. So great job by Herb Dean getting that stopped. For all the people who disagree, not smart. Um, so I don't know, man. I think that might be. I think maybe Fedor should retire. I don't want to see. I already had to watch this with Chuck Liddell, who was another one of my favorites, get knocked unconscious 4 times in a row, and I don't need to see that with Fedor. He has nothing to prove. He's one or two of the greatest all time. So just retire, call it quits. You know, that's it. What's next for Hendo? I would say Hendo. I want to see him back in the UFC. I don't care about him defending the Strikeforce light heavyweight title. I really don't. I think he's a far better fighter than you know Mosasi. That's what I keep hearing. That's who he's going to fight. Um, I don't know. I just think Hendo should be back in the UFC. That's what I want to see. I want to see him fighting, Forrest Griffin. I want to see him fighting Shogun. I want to see him fighting John Jones. I want to see him fighting Rampage in a rematch. Rashad Evans, Tito, and Hendo. Those are the fights that I want to see. I don't want to see him fighting, and no disrespect to any of these guys. These guys are great. Um, I don't want to see Hendo fighting King Mo. It just doesn't interest me, any of those fights. Or Roger Gracie or a rematch with Fei Zhao. None of that interests me. I want to see Hendo fighting the guys that I named previously. So that's really all I got. Follow me on Twitter at BuddhasportMMA. Check us out, Buddhasport.com. You guys will love the site. Real exciting things going on. It's Buddhasport.com. Check it out. And stay tuned for my upcoming videos. I'll have the 133 predictions done real soon. Have a good one, people.